Today we're checking out the Soundcore Sport X20 and I'm going to be scoring and ranking them in 12 categories against 6 sport-focused earbuds. One of them being the previous model, the Sport X10. And they improved basically everything with the X20. So the X10 go for around $50 nowadays, the X20 retail at $79, but I wouldn't be surprised if even now they go on sale a bit cheaper. So let's start with category 1, comfort. So you're getting 5 sizes of ear tips included, and the design here is very similar to the X10. But the ear hook no longer folds in, which is actually more convenient when you chuck the buds back in the case, and they still rotate 30 degrees. But you can now extend the ear hook by 4 millimeters, which works great if you have larger ears like me. This is a genius move from Soundcore. I mean, it looks simple, but I'm sure it would have been pretty challenging to actually pull off. Now the ear hook as well is also a slightly different shape, which I find helps with the stability of the fit. The X10 stayed on fine for me, but I would actually lose the seal quite easily when I was moving around, and I would always have to readjust the earbud. So this is no longer an issue with the X20 with that new ear hook. But it's actually the new ergonomics that makes more of the difference for me. So the design is more ergonomic and more compact. So they're getting a score of 9 out of 10. It's a very light feel in the ear, minimal suction and pressure, which is the same as the X10 basically. I keep the scoring pretty general here because this is just my experience, but the way these buds are designed with the ergonomics and the ear hook, it should fit most ears quite well. But now onto category 2, how well do these earbuds work when running? And there's a lot to cover here. So I'm tracking things like body-borne noise, how much the earbuds move and make noise, and how much wind the microphones pick up. So I score all 3 sections on a scale of 1 to 5. The lower the score, the less noise, so the better. And you can compare all this in the spreadsheet nice and easily. But basically the X20 are fine in all the tests. Except for the wind noise, I noticed the microphones pick up wind slightly easier than the X10, mainly due to the position of the mic now on the side of the earbud rather than on the back of the earbud on the X10. So with forward momentum, you're going to pick up wind and the microphone picks it up a little bit easier. You can turn on the automatic wind reduction mode in the app, but this will pretty much just turn your transparency mode off because as soon as the microphone detects wind, it just turns it off. And you won't be able to hear your surroundings when you're running, which you probably want to do. So I find it's like, it picks up wind to the point where it's not super annoying. If you have music playing, it's fine. If you're listening to like a video or a podcast, it might get slightly annoying. And I'll go into more detail about the actual quality of the transparency mode later, but they're getting an 8 out of 10 here for running. Now, category 3 is how well the buds work with weight training. And for me, they work incredibly well. They're getting a score of 10 out of 10. Technically for me, the X20 are much better than the X10, but again, this is just because I have large ears. I know the X10 work for most people just fine. So no matter the exercise, squatting, deadlifting, bench pressing, and getting my head in a squish position is always one of the hardest tests. The buds barely budge out of place, so I don't even lose too much of the seal with the ear tip. So overall, I can just chuck on the X20, leave them on there, I barely need to readjust it, and I can just focus on my workout. Now, category 4 is the IP rating. So you now get an IP68 dust and waterproof rating, where the X10 just had an IPX7 waterproof rating, so no dust resistance. So that's about as good as it gets. So they're getting a score of 9.5 out of 10. The Jabra Elite 8 Active have a score of 10 because they're also shockproof. Now, category 5 is case and battery life. And with the scoring here, I'm taking into account earbud battery, total battery, wireless charging, fast charging, water resistance, and case size. So you're getting advertised 7 hours with the buds, 28 hours in total with noise cancelling on, 12 hours and 48 hours with noise cancelling off. Slightly less than the 8 hours and 32 hours on the X10. But the buds are more compact and the case is a bit thinner. The Elite 8 Active is still the thinnest case, and here it is compared to the X20. The fast charge has been improved, now at 5 minutes, giving you 2 hours of playback, which is up from just giving you an hour's playback. So they're getting a score of 8 out of 10 because you don't get wireless charging, which is not a huge issue. I never use wireless charging, to be honest. And the only cases with dust and water resistance are the Elite 8 Active and Sennheiser Momentum Sport. Now into category 6, controls. So you get physical button controls here, which has a nice click. The X10 button was a little bit squishy, but you still only get a single, double tap and long hold. No triple tap for some reason. Really don't know why it's not there, so this just means you get less options with your controls. You can still customize the controls for the left and right earbuds and add volume control in. You just can't add ambient controls to the single tap, which I prefer to have so I can quickly switch between noise cancelling or transparency. Still, you can add noise cancelling off into that ambient control cycle. So they're getting a score of 7.5 out of 10. You get everything you need, but they don't have any wearing detection, and they are missing a triple tap. If you want to know the exact controls for all the earbuds, it's all in the spreadsheet, link below. Now, category 7 is connectivity. Now, I assume you're getting Bluetooth 5.3. Couldn't actually find this anywhere, but you get SBC and AAC for your codecs. You can use one earbud while you leave the other in the case, but it's not going to work in mono mode. So if you're using only the right earbud, you're just going to hear the right audio channel, not the left and the right. But you do get multi-point connection now, which the X10 didn't have, and it also has takeover. So when you play media on one device, it'll automatically pause on your other device. So overall score here is an 8 out of 10 for connectivity. Now, category 8 is call quality, and I run through 3 tests here: a quiet room, simulation loud kid noise because it's sporadic voices, and a simulation windy city with construction. I then take the average of all 3 tests and round it up to the nearest half. And the X10 already had the best call quality. The X20 slightly better with a score of 8.5. Now, you can't mute your microphone when you're on a phone call using the controls, and you can't switch between noise cancelling and transparency when you're on a call. So whatever option you had on before you answer your call will just stay on. But here are some samples compared to the X10 so you can hear it for yourself. Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Sport X10 in a quiet room. Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Sport X20 in a quiet room. Alright, now let's see how the microphones block out some simulation loud kid noise. Alright, here's the Soundcore Sport X10 with some simulation loud kid noise. Alright, here's the Sport X20 with some simulation loud kid noise. Alright, now I've got some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. Alright, here's the Sport X10 with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation wind. Alright, here's a Sport X20 with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation wind. Alright, category 9 is app customization and extra features. So you can get the Soundcore app on iOS and Android, and it's a nice layout, super reliable app. So I'll touch on all the main features and go into a bit more detail later. So on the main screen there, you got your earbud and your case battery. You've got your ambient control options and your wind noise toggle. Sound effects has your 8-band EQ with tons of presets. You have a Hear ID sound test, 3D surround sound, which is like spatial audio without head tracking. You got your control customization I ran through before. Breathe is like a very basic meditation app. And that settings tab at the top right has all your extras, like the ear tip fit test. Press alert will turn off your beep feedback when using the controls. Dual connection has all your connected devices. You got some auto power off options, and a Find My feature will just emit a beeping sound from the earbuds if you misplace them. You also get a widgets option now on iOS and Android. I tried it on my Asus Zenfone 10, but it takes up almost the entire screen and you can't adjust it to make it a bit smaller. But all that allows you to do is to change your ambient control settings. So overall, solid stuff. They're getting a score of 9 out of 10. Solid improvement over the X10 because they didn't have Hear ID, the fit test, 3D surround sound, the Find My Buds feature, or the widgets. So a lot of extras on the X20. All right, category 10 is noise cancelling, and how I test my noise cancelling, I chuck on my soundbar and I'm playing simulation plain noise and crowd noise, so I get low, middle, high, consistent, as well as inconsistent sounds. So here is the scoring for all the earbuds with the plain noise test and the crowd noise test, and you got the average there on the far right. So the X20 have the strongest noise cancelling overall with a score of 8.5. Keep in mind, this is if you get a proper seal. So for me, if I use the largest ear tips, this is going to give me the best seal, but I do prefer the actual feel of the second largest ear tips. And this is why I like to test the noise cancelling myself, because the slightest change in the actual positioning of the earbud can massively affect the seal, and it's going to massively affect the noise cancelling strength. So keep in mind, this is the best case scenario with the fit. What's nice to see is that you can adjust the strength of the noise cancelling in the app. So if you find like that suction or cabin pressure feeling you get from noise cancelling is too strong, you can dial it down a bit. Or you can turn on the adaptive mode, which will automatically adjust the strength based on the noise around you. Now, when it comes to EQ shift, this was a massive problem with the X10. So EQ shift is how your sound quality changes with noise cancelling on compared to noise cancelling off compared to transparency. And with the X10, when you went from noise cancelling on to transparency or noise cancelling off, the bass increased by about 20%, which is some of the highest EQ shift that I've heard. You still get a bit on the X20, but it's been dialed down massively. It's only about a 5% bass and mid increase when you go from noise cancelling on to noise cancelling off or transparency. So I'm very happy to see Soundcore fix that. The automatic wind noise reduction has also been improved. So when you have noise cancelling or transparency mode on and the mics pick up wind, it'll turn the noise cancelling or transparency mode off, and it would normally take about 10 seconds for it to switch back on the X10, where now it's been reduced to about 4 seconds. So a nice improvement there. All right, category 11 is the transparency mode. And this has also been improved quite a bit over the X10. So you get much better clarity and much less occlusion now. So when you speak yourself, your own voice sounds more natural and not like muffled or echoey. The only issue is that the mics pick up slightly more wind now than the X10. And there's still a noticeable amount of white noise hiss. It's about the same as what the X10 had. But overall, the clarity has been improved, so they're getting a score of 8. Now, onto the final round, sound quality. And starting with my max volume test, I got 122.6 decibels, so they're currently the loudest earbud that I've tested here. Even around 114, you're getting plenty of volume to play around with. But now onto the actual sound quality itself, and going back to the X10, they're pretty much like the perfect sound quality you'd want when training. Deep thumping bass, full mid bass, it's a little bit on the boomy side. The mids are slightly recessed, but you got nice, crisp, detailed treble. So that's the stock tuning on the X10. The stock tuning on the X20 kind of follows on with that, but you get even more powerful bass. I'd say slightly too over the top now, and the treble was brought down slightly, so I actually think the stock tuning is better on the X10. But after playing around with the EQ on the X20, you can get them sounding just as good as the X10, if not slightly better. So this is the EQ that I like to use, dialing down the bass a little bit, boosting the mids and boosting the treble. And even with that bass reduction, the bass still kicks in incredibly hard. It's still a little less over the top. It hits in nice and deep. You get that kind of subwoofer in your head bass, but the actual clarity is still very decent. And I noticed the soundstage is slightly more open on the X20 compared to the X10. You also get the Hear ID sound test now, which the X10 didn't have, which is a quick test you run through. It's more like a preference test, so it'll create an EQ for you. So it's not a proper hearing test that'll measure your left and right ear individually. But you also get 3D surround sound now, which is pretty much spatial audio without head tracking. Now, if you follow my channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of spatial audio at all, but it's definitely improving, and this is definitely the best implementation that Soundcore has done with spatial audio. So it opens up the sound slightly. You still get that slight kind of echo and reverb effect, especially with things like kick drums. It'll make it sound like it sounds better because it just increases the volume. But when you match the volume, it's kind of like a subtle spatial audio. So they're getting a score of 8 out of 10 for sound quality. So if you like a bass boosted tuning when training, these are going to be the pair to go for. If you like a more balanced sound, you might prefer something like the Beats Fit Pro, but the Sennheiser Momentum Sport, still the best sound quality overall. Even then, with the EQ, you get a decent amount of freedom. If you want a more balanced tuning, you'll have to bring that bass all the way down, and there's still quite a bit of it there, but you still get some nice freedom to tailor the sound to your liking. But that wraps up all 12 categories. And before we go into the final score, this scoring system really just makes it easier for me to compare all the small details for my reviews. And if it helps you out as well, that's great. So you can download that spreadsheet for free, and it's linked below. And on there, you get notes for each score. You can compare all the specs, and there's a core quality tab with each of the 3 scores for all the tests. And the personalized scoring is super simple. So just fill out a number in the importance column, and that'll multiply that entire category, giving you a new total score for all the earbuds. But now the final scores are in, and the Sport X20 finished in second place with a score of 102.5 out of 120. So that puts them only 1 point behind the Jabra Elite 8 Active, and the X20 are less than half the price of those buds. So it's a solid 6.5 point improvement over the X10. Like I said, they've been improved in pretty much every single way. So if you own the X10, it might be worth the upgrade if you're having any issues with them and they've been fixed with the X20, they may have. But the X20 is such an easy recommendation, easily the best value sports earbud you can get right now. So Soundcore killing it as usual. And for more on Soundcore, check out my Boom 2 Plus review right here. I actually compared that speaker to the Boombox 3, which is double the price, and they held up incredibly well. So check that video out. In the meantime, stay picky. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.